This is a spontaneous episode of the Emanations from the Void podcast. I'm sitting here with my coffee and I have a few thoughts I feel the need to express. It's March 3rd, 2024. It's a Sunday, the sun is shining. But that's not what I want to talk about. I have been recently pondering the relationship between our talents, our gifts, and what we call work life. In my client work and also in my personal life, I've been seeing that our gifts, our natural talents, are not always easy to put into action. It depends entirely on what are your gifts. Some gifts are easier to implement in your daily life, in your work life. Find a profession through which you can use your gifts. And for some gifts, it's challenging to find a place where you can put them into use. I also wonder about how our perception of work life is constructed, what we think of life in general. In the Western world, we very often divide our time into the part where we are at work, doing a day job, and our free time, where we do something that we find meaningful. So we have a work life and a private life. And often they don't have to do with each other. For many people, work is just a thing you do because you need to pay the bills to be able to go to work the next day. It's like a spiral. And I've been thinking how we do not question this too often. We just think that's the way things are. That's how life is. For many people, they don't have a job that they find most meaningful or that they feel is a job, a profession that they excel in, that they do so well and that they are doing with their whole being, that they find so meaningful that they can say, this is my path, this is my purpose. For many people, it's just the way they get paid and they use their payment to pay the bills. If you think about when you were a child, your thought probably was that you are going to be something meaningful when you are an adult. You will do some kind of job that you really want to do. You had a dream about who you become when you are grown up. For many people, this dream never comes true. It might just be that our dreams change, or that we are becoming realistic, as some people might put it. It might also have to do with how we grow up, with the expectations that we are presented with, the expectations of our parents, of teachers, of our society. But I wonder if our dreams of what we wanted to do when we were little, if this is something that we should keep thinking of more, not in the way that everybody needs to become what they wanted to be when they were little, but the situation, the feeling we had when we were little, the hope, the optimism, the idea of when I'm grown up, I do something meaningful. I think this is related to our core creative energy, this feeling of when I'm big, I'm doing something big. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a world-changing profession you start doing. It might be something what some people think of, it's a little thing, you know. Some people wanted to become a painter, you know, or a baker or whatever, you know, and they really felt it. They were really excited about it. But then they grow up. Sometimes I feel that we are trapped in the structure of society, of the structures we have built that keep ourselves and our creative gifts captive. We are very different. Everybody has their own gifts, their own natural talents. And for some people, depending on the gift, it might be easier to find a way to use their gifts in daily life or through a profession, through a job. But for other people, it might be very hard. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be loved for who we are, and we want to feel that our existence on this planet has a meaning and a purpose. But it's not too easy for some to actually find a niche or a place to use their gifts. But we have to start with what are our gifts. And I have seen that sometimes we are not even aware of what we can do, who we are, what is the core of our creative force, our equipment the divine has given us as a gift when we were born. So the first step would be getting aware of who you are. And there are some tools that you can use. And I have seen that systems like astrology or divination systems, tarot, typing systems like the Enneagram, they are all very useful. They can help you find the core of your gifts, but also see what is the struggle you have with putting them into action. Is there anything that is in your environment that is difficult for you, or is it something that you put onto yourself that keeps you from actually using your gifts? And I always think about how difficult it is to actually use the knowledge we have. There are so many information out there, so many systems, so many ways of becoming aware and working on yourself. You don't need money, you don't need a lot of books or anything. You can get access to quite many systems and understandings or ways of thinking that help you find your way to yourself and to work on yourself. But it's so hard to put it into action, and it might be tempting to read about yourself, about your various typing, or through various typing systems, read about your types, read about your birth chart, get a reading and so on. But then what are you doing with the information? All those systems like astrology are meant for you to be useful. So even before you go to an astrologer or you book a reading, you do well if you think about how you are going to use that information. How do you apply the knowledge you get, the insights you get into your life? It's only the beginning of a lifelong path. It never stops. The understanding of why you are here, who you are, what are your gifts, and how to put them into action, how to use them, it's a lifelong journey. For some people it's easier, and for some people it's much harder. And it also has to do with the structure of our societies, with the thinking we have put on, or we have agreed to keep in our minds, the way we think of life, the way how we experience why we are here. And it's just strange, in my opinion, that we so often think that life has to be hard, that you have to work hard and you have to make sacrifices, and we may allow ourselves maybe 5 or 7% of happiness, but the rest of the life has to be hard, and only if it's hard and only if you sacrifice, then you know you're doing well. And this is so strange. Think again of how you thought. What were you thinking when you were little? Did you think that life has to be hard? That life has to be a struggle all the time? That's something that we have told ourselves. Something that our ancestors might have told ourselves. But is it the truth? Do we need to work hard to feel happiness, to experience happiness? When we are born, we didn't have anything. Nothing. Not even clothes. No food. No property, nothing. We came here with only our soul. We were incarnated into a physical body with its senses, but everything else was just given to us: food, clothing. So we didn't have anything. And when we were little, we were not thinking that we have to earn life. We have to earn to be here. It's a misconception that life has to be a struggle. Of course, life is a cycle. We are living in cycles. There's an end, there's the height of something that's growing, but then there comes decay and death and rebirth, and a new cycle starts. And within the cycle, there are phases that might feel very harsh on us. Situations, relationships, phases in life that make us question everything. We may lose people around us. We may lose our jobs, our homes. But do we think that this is meant to be, that this has to be the way, that this is just right, that this happens to us? Or do we think we are better persons when we face a lot of struggle, or that we have earned more in life when we are humble in that way, that we don't want to have anything, so that we are better persons with this kind of attitude that we refuse to actually live and use our senses? How we live has very much to do with our environment, with how we grow up. And I very often these days think about how this has an impact on how we use our gifts and what we think, why we are here. And we might actually live a life not according who we are, but what we think of, what others, what society expects of us, which might for many people be repressing the creative flow within them because they try to fit into something that they are not. They cannot use their gifts because they are stuck in a system where they can't use their talents. And because your talents are not apart from who you are, your talents and gifts are who you are. you might experience that you do not live. You exist in a way, but you do not live, because living is creating. And when the creative flow does not flow freely, you don't live. You exist, but you don't live. So, besides working out on ourselves and getting aware of who we are, why sometimes we might not know our gifts, sometimes we might be held captive from trauma that needs to be worked on first. Besides all this self-development and lifelong journey of becoming aware who we are, we also need to think about how we structure our communities, society. There's a great need for collective change in thinking of what life is. I think I'm ending this short, spontaneous podcast episode. And let's see how things will evolve and develop. I always think that there is a lot of potential in us, and I hope that we will get more in touch with the creative life force within us. It is my belief that we are here for a good purpose, and that we can create a place where everybody can use their gifts, where everybody has a place in society. And when everybody feels that they are welcome, that they can be who they are, that they have something useful and meaningful to share with others, then we also will have a much nicer world, a better world. People will be kinder. That's my hope for the future. Kindness.